Hey everybody, it's Friday, and I think it's time we take a look at some of the polls over the past week. We've got a bunch of states to get through. We're going to try to go quick. We're going to start here in this fresh one from Emerson College in Nevada. We've got dead heat for governor, U.S. Senators Rosen and Cortez Masto underwater. Big race next year for governor in the Silver State. Let's look at the head-to-head matchup. Incumbent Republican Joe Lombardo and Democrat Aaron Ford, the Attorney General. They're both tied at 41%. 18% are undecided. That's huge. This is a purple state in the midterm for Trump. Dems would love to knock off Lombardo just like he knocked off Sisolak 4 years earlier. But the big number here is going to be those undecideds. Let's go down here. It says Lombardo holds an 8-point lead among independents. That's key. But 40% are undecided. Ford's strength are with Hispanic voters who break for him by 16 and women who break for him by 5. So some trade-offs there. What about Lombardo's job approval rating? Well, it's actually only 34%. However, only 36% disapprove. 30% are neutral or have no opinion. So that's a little weird. But then we've got the two U.S. senators. 31% approve of Cortez Masto. 42 disapprove, 27 neutral. And with Jackie Rosen, it's 28 approve, 46 disapprove, 26 neutral. So out of those numbers, it looks like Lombardo has the better favorables. That might be driven by Democrats having lower support for the two U.S. senators. They're only at 42 to 37. But Lombardo is way above water with his own party, the Republicans, 66 to 12. So that's interesting, but we've got Donald Trump. He's underwater. He's at 39% approve, a big 54 disapprove. With immigration, it's 42 approve, 55 disapprove. On the economy, it's just 35 approve, 57 disapprove. Then down here, it has no tax on tips. 48% say it's had no impact, and 40% say it's been positive, 12% negative. So some good stuff here in Nevada. It looks like there's going to be yet again some competitive races here. Next, let's do Arizona. Now, this poll came out late last week, and we're going to get right down into the hard data. We've got Katie Hobbs, the incumbent Democrat. She's looking to take on one of these Republican candidates. And in the GOP primary, Andy Biggs is in the lead. He's at 50%. Karen Taylor Robson is at 17%. And David Schweikert is at 8%. 25% undecided. We've got Biggs holds 59% among voters, over 60%, and 51% among those who backed Trump in 24. A few months ago, it looked like it was anybody's nomination. Now it looks like Biggs is the frontrunner. Now here's some head-to-head matchups in the general election. Biggs against Hobbs. She's in the lead by 1, 44 to 43. Robson against Hobbs. She's also in the lead by 1. And Schweikert against Hobbs. She's in the lead by 5. But all of these have at least 13% undecided. Hobbs' job approval rating is just 39%, 40% disapprove. Trump is at 44 approve, 49 disapprove. And with Hobbs' favorability, not her job rating, she is at 44%, 40% unfavorable. And here's the full table right here. The three Republican candidates have a lower name ID, so kind of a mixed bag here. Hobbs is vulnerable, but she's far from guaranteed to lose that seat. And here's the most important issues facing Arizona. The economy is up to 34%. Immigration has dropped from 27 down to 18. And abortion access has gone from 14 to just 1. So I think there's enough here for Hobbs to be able to pull out a win. Divided government in the state, along with her incumbency, could easily keep her in office for another 4 years. But you never know, Trump did win the state by 5.5 points last time. Now here's a poll in Michigan from Epic, MRA. Let's go down here. With 600 active voters in this poll, in the three-way race for governor, Republican John James actually has a lead here, 34%. Jocelyn Benson is at 33%. Independent Mike Duggan is at 20%, 13% undecided. Those are not strong numbers for anybody. The big wild card there is Mike Duggan. He's a former Democrat and mayor of Detroit. Is he actually in this till the end, or is he going to fizzle out? In the U.S. Senate race, Republican Mike Rogers is at 42%. Haley Stevens is at 44%, and Mallory McMorrow is at 43%. Now, they both still have to get through a primary. There are more questions for the Dems than for Rogers, but another pure toss-up could go either way according to these numbers. And then down here, for Trump's approval rating, 56% said it was fair or poor, 43% said excellent or pretty good. For Whitmer, it's better. She's at 51 positive, 48 negative. So some good stuff here in Michigan. We're going to keep it moving. Here's the first of two polls from Signal. This is in Alabama. And in a theoretical matchup between Republican Tommy Tuberville and Democrat Doug Jones, Tuberville has a 19-point lead, 53 to 34. Now, this matchup is far from a guarantee, but these two did face off in the U.S. Senate, where Tuberville defeated incumbent Doug Jones in 2020. So it would be kind of entertaining if they faced off again for a different office. Dems would love to take out Tuberville, but in Alabama, it looks like Doug Jones doesn't really stand too much of a chance. Now, governor is different than Senate. Theoretically, a moderate Democrat should not have as hard of a time getting elected here. But at the same time, Jones already took a loss to Tuberville. You think they could find somebody younger and not as recycled as Jones. But it also says here Trump gets a 56% approval rating on the economy. That certainly seems much higher compared to other states. Let's move on here to Maine. We've got the U.S. Senate, and it has Susan Collins against a generic Democrat. In that matchup, she trails by 8 points. 41 to 59, 11% undecided. But Collins performs best against college-educated women and voters over 55. And of the 11% undecided, they lean Republican 2-1. Then they go on to say that if Collins votes to extend the healthcare premium credits, then the race becomes a toss-up. It's 43 for Collins, 45 for a generic Dem, 13% undecided. So anything related to healthcare and extending any credits, that's something voters want to see. It usually helps the Democrats. In this case, a little bit of that would help Collins. She would really boost her standing with moderates if she voted to extend that. She'd be up 16 points with that group. If she doesn't extend it, she's going to go down 15. So this poll puts a lot of weight on that one very specific issue. If you're Collins and you see this, you've got to support that extension. That is, if it actually comes to a vote. And given it's a blue-leaning state and Collins' reputation as more moderate, it seems likely that she would vote for that extension. Now, I've seen other polls where Collins is against Platner and Mills. It's really just too early to say what would actually happen. There's not a lot of consistency yet. Time will tell, but let's move on here to New York. Here's a Siena College poll. And the big highlight here is Hochul against Elise Stefanik. But first, in a Democratic primary, Hochul leads Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado 56-16. And against Stefanik in a general election, Hochul is up 20 points, 52-32. That's just a little bit narrow from the poll in September. So that looks bad for Stefanik, but Hochul only being at 52%. She can't take that for granted either. And how about incoming Mayor Zoran Mamdani? His approval rating is 40-40. That's statewide. So he's dead even. New York City voters think he's going to be good for the city, while upstate voters have a different opinion. Now, in the race between Hochul and Stefanik, the thing to point out is Hochul leads with independents 40-36. That's down from 43-25 in September. So clearly some volatility in these polls. Hochul's favorability rating is 43-55 underwater. Her job approval is 52-43. So she looks good there. Stefanik's favorability is 28-36, and 42% of voters are prepared to re-elect Hochul, while 48% would prefer someone else. Of that 48% that would prefer someone else, 30% want another Democrat, while 53% would prefer a Republican. So a lot of mixed signals here. Hochul clearly has the lead, while more generically, voters kind of look like they're tired of Hochul at the same time. So we can't go over everything. The main thing I'm going to point out here is Trump's favorability rating. It's at 35%, 61% are unfavorable, and his job approval rating is 37-61. So pretty weak numbers there for Trump. Then they cover a little bit about Schumer and AOC as well as some of the issues, but the generic congressional ballot favors the Dems by a big 55-32. So a lot of stuff here in this poll, but we've got to move on to the next state. This is Texas. Now here's a poll with almost 1,000 likely GOP primary voters by Hunt Research, and it says they're unaffiliated with any of the campaigns. So apparently they have nothing to do with Wesley Hunt, who is a candidate that recently entered the race. Now in that poll taken in October, in the three-way race, Ken Paxton is at 28%, John Cornyn, the incumbent, is at 24%, and Wesley Hunt, the newcomer, is at 19%. They do mention an internal poll here from the Hunt campaign. At the end of October, Cornyn was at 26%, Paxton 25%, and Hunt 24%. That's a total coin flip. So this race is seriously heating up. Ken Paxton is the wild card here. He could make it more narrow in the general election, but Wesley Hunt could be the compromise candidate. If he's able to slip through that divide between Cornyn and Paxton, then there's a chance he could become the frontrunner by the time the primary happens. So Cornyn has been in there a while. Paxton has his own baggage. Hunt seems like the fresh voice, and all three of them are going to try to cozy up to Trump. And it does talk about how Cornyn's numbers have gone up since he started putting out some ads with his support for Trump. So I guess Democrats are hoping Ken Paxton becomes the nominee because that would probably be their best chance in the general election. Paxton should still be favored, but it could be closer. My best guess is that if this does turn into a bitter primary battle, in the end, most of the voters would come back to the Republican nominee, whether that's Cornyn or Paxton or Hunt. So this will be huge stuff. We'll be checking on it as time goes on. Let's finish things up here in Hawaii. Rarely do we get polls out of this state. It's very, very blue, but here's one from Data for Progress. Now, this is for the Democratic primary in the 1st Congressional District. And the main thing to point out here is Ed Case, who's the incumbent Democrat. His favorability rating is plus 33 among Dems, but Governor Josh Green is at plus 71. And the 2 U.S. senators are similar in the 70s. So it's all deep blue territory, but why is Ed Case about half the favorability as the other Dems? Well, that might be because he does way better with moderate voters. He's at plus 61. And younger voters view him at negative 9 points. If you want an easier way to see this, we've got the table right here. So Case does have 30% that view him unfavorably. And against a generic Democratic primary opponent, Case is only ahead by 7 points. 43 to 36, 21% don't know. So really early in this primary, but if we go all the way down here, this shows you what voters in that district are looking for in their nominee. At the top, it's someone who will stand up against Republicans and Trump. That's at plus 84% that say they'd be more likely to support that candidate. Someone who is progressive is a little bit lower, but still plus 64. And the only one that's in the red is someone endorsed by AIPAC. That's 24% less likely, 14% more likely. So of course there's more to this poll, but this is a pretty specific race. But it's always fun to take a look at Hawaii whenever we get the chance. So that's going to be a quick overview of some of the recent polling in a bunch of different states. So let me know in the comments. What do you think about any of this data? As we get closer and closer to some primaries, what are you looking for the most? How do you think the primaries will impact the general election? Let me know what you think down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.